Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversations. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
You and I are kind of similar. You may even be more good-hearted than me. I feel like you. Well,
but in our longing hearts, we're all the same.
Mutual respect and
yes.
A boundary might have been crossed
Yes.
that you right.
That's
So
right.
just an example
That's
of
a good example.
it is a great example. I appreciate that for
Yes.
giving me the example to even work with.
Let's be the change we want to see.
I've never seen differences negative. I've always been attracted to and intrigued by it. But we're looking for how are we similar? How are we the same? How can we all just get along?
We are links in a chain. Unimportant.
What's up, everyone? How we doing? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you were tuning in from. This is Working It Out Across Generations. I'm one of your hosts, Justin.
And I am your other host, Dr. Lynn.
Awesome. Yes, thank you. And on this show, we talk all things conflict, big and small, being that we also have a conflict resolution background professionally. We try to offer some tips and tricks for reconciliation. Today, I think we have a really, really good topic. It's definitely a personal one to me, and I assure you, it's got to be personal to other people out there watching. So I'm really excited to get into it. Dr. Lynn, take it away.
Oh, yes. Today we're talking about passion versus anger, the costs and the differences. But before we get into that, we have the most exciting news that we want to share with you and get you in on. And that is this right here. Yes, that we are featured in Black News Magazine, Working It Out Across Generations, the transformative mission of Dr. Lynn Maureen Hurdle and Justin Hurdle Price. And we really want you to check this out because the article really gives you a chance to get to know some things about us that we don't reveal on the show or haven't revealed on the show, and also about our mission to spark 1 million healthy conversations worldwide, one conversation at a time. We want you to be a part of those conversations as well. So we're going to hit you with the link to the article so that you can check it out there. Yes, there we go. blacknews.com, Working Out Across Generations, the transformative mission of Dr. Lynn Maureen Hurdle and Justin Hurdle Price. Check it out. And we are so proud and can't wait to hear from you about how it has affected you. All right. So we're going to jump right in to this topic, which we chose this topic for quite a few reasons, but I do have to say that it's really personal to both of us. I know that there have been many times when I have been accused of being angry. And for me, nothing wrong with being angry, right? It's any of our emotions, you have to know what to do with them, when to apply them, or how to manage them. So nothing wrong with being angry. But when that is not what I am, then I'm not happy if people are thinking that, because unfortunately, people really associate anger with negativity and often danger. And really, I've just been passionate about things. It's the way that I talk. I think passionate people get this really bad label. I can remember my mom always telling me I was loud, and that didn't really sit well with me. So I really wanted to bring this topic forth, and I know Justin as well wanted to bring it forth, because it really is, it's hit us. It's not something that we're talking outside of ourselves. We've experienced this. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is just another one of those things for us where, as far as, question wise, we were just thinking, where do we draw the line? I feel like, there's a lot of, who's deemed passionate, who's deemed angry, right? And it's so linear, it seems like, in the way that we think about how these things intersect, right? It's kind of like a hand in hand, as opposed to, really, I think, drawing some of those differences out and, I think pointing them out as indicators for people in the next time that you're in, a conversation that has a lot of charge to it. So I think that, this is really important. I've definitely felt misunderstood myself at multiple different times in my life with these two things, right? And it's really been interesting thinking back on, just the ways that I tried to explain that it was different, right? And that I was showing it differently, and how much of that I really understood for myself and how much of that I didn't, and where I kind of had to toe that line for myself. So I think we all have to be able to do that and, be real about, for ourselves when we're, speaking with charge and speaking, in a heated or, just big moment. Sorry, you're touching stuff, so I'm all over the place mentally, but it's just about, where do we go with that charge? What do we do with it? Not acknowledging it. You know what I mean? We have to be able to let things exist. And I think that, anger is something that, it has its place. It has its place, and we just have to find a way to channel it correctly.
Yeah, all right. I see some folks commenting. Thank you, Melissa. Cartwheels and congratulations on the article. Andrea, hey, family. Yes, absolutely. We are excited for this opportunity for you to get to know us in a better way. And one of the ways is to understand what this particular topic has, how it's affected our lives. And certainly if you're here and you want to comment on how it has affected yours, that would be great too. But I also think that one of the reasons I wanted to talk about it is because there are certain groups that get associated with anger versus passion. There are certain stereotypes. There are things that people say about both of these things, and they don't tend to get a positive reaction unless you really understand them, I think. I think some people are probably saying, well, what kind of positive reaction did anger get? Anger has helped people to want to change things in society, right? It has motivated us to get up and out of our homes and out on the streets, or out in news studios, or out in different people's homes to talk about all of the things that have made us angry, at that often prompt us to want to change things. And I think that anger can absolutely have a positive connotation if we are not, charging it, right? Afraid of it. We've certainly been taught to be afraid of it. Passion is often, I think, reserved for certain professions. I know growing up in the Black church, right? A preacher, a minister with passion. That was supposed to be really good, and it evoked some kind of response. And certainly in the Black church, we had the call and response method. So you want to be passionate, but it isn't just in the Black church. There are many different preachers who have passion. Motivational speakers are often not accused of something bad when they have passion. In fact, they help. That passion is what people say motivates us. But when you tend to get into like a conflict situation, then the fear of passion really seems to reside there.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. Are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm with you.
All right. So I actually want to just thinking about the generational aspects around passion and anger. Well, number one, I grew up as a child who could not really express anger. That was not going to be acceptable at all among the adult population. And I don't remember, I think for me as a child, expressing anger amongst my peers, unless we were all in agreement, that was going to set you up for something ugly if they felt that you were angry. If there was passion, then I'm accused of being loud, too loud, and I'm hushed all over the place, not just with the adults in my life, but certainly with my peers. You're too loud. You're embarrassing us. And inside voice didn't really come around till my kids were. They were kids. We didn't hear inside voice growing up, but certainly heard be quiet quite a bit. And I just felt like, I think I'm a really passionate person when I'm really excited, interested in something, and all of that seemed to be really squelched when I was coming up. And I think that I had trouble with it as a result when I became an adult, of trying to find my voice, which was often passionate. And I would see people kind of like withdraw, especially if it was in a conflict situation, and them wanting me to be quiet or quieter, say that differently. And especially if I'm talking to somebody in authority. So I think it's the kind of thing where I'd love to see us get comfortable with either one of these emotions.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, I'm always thinking about, my generation and how young people are grasping these skills or not. And I think that, generationally speaking, I think there is a lot, of similarities in the quiet down, you're doing too much, you're drawing too much attention, and all of that. And I think that this just isn't as black and white. You know what I mean? Like, I just think that there's a place for both. And the underlying thing, I believe, that's going to drive one into the other, either healthily or unhealthily, right, is really some of that intention versus impact work that we've been talking about. I think that a lot of times when we're angry, when we're whatever, right, there's times where emotions can get way too high, right? And we forget our goal at hand that we're trying to achieve in that moment, which could be simply to be heard, which could be simply to get a new way of thinking in the room, or it could be to break the cycle of, like the silencing aspect of it, right? Like we're not going to be silenced. We're not going to be doing that because look where that's gotten us, right? And so that's one thing. But when we think about passion, I think that people are able to take in harder messages, when you have a clear direction of where you want them to go with it, and you can speak to it, right? So there's plenty of things in the world that I'm upset at, that I'm angry at, to be quite frank, right? However, I don't allow myself and I don't allow people that I work with to just sit and live in that space. We have to have some sort of call to action to it to be able to manage and deal with the anger that will come up in something we're passionate about. And so as far as, for young people, I think we just need to, get clearer in our own mirrors as us as adults, with what the differences look like, the costs of it, right? Exactly what we're talking about right now. And then the more that we can get that locked in on ourselves, the better models that we can be for young people in those heated kinds of engagements where, people feel like they don't have a voice, or they feel like their voice could be overshadowed or anything of that nature. I don't think a lot of young kids have a lot of those models. And I've said it before, young people are literally the same as adults and all of that, just with less language and more emotion, right? Yeah. Simply because they haven't been here long enough to know how to channel these things. And so if we give them a model that's different from crashing out, or that's different from blindly speaking out of emotion, then I think that they'll be able to, really exercise those discernment skills as for when am I being passionate and then when am I just blowing up right now, because both can happen. There's a space for both, right? But it's all about foundation, container, and giving them something to come back to when things aren't going the way that they want them to.
And what's crashing out for folks that don't know?
That's just blowing up, not caring about the impact of your actions or the words that you're saying, right? It's honestly at times, having the intention of trying to hurt feelings or trigger something, but not in a way of, not with any sort of call to action. It's more of a calling out as opposed to calling in, which we also talk a lot about. And it feels just very finger pointy, like I'm just going to say whatever as a reaction, right? I'm going to take response out of the equation. I'm just going to react to what's going on. It really is just any form of blowing up without any sort of thinking about how it's going to affect you, the people around you, or the environment that you're in. So that's a lot of crashing out, and we've not only seen benefits to young people, I guess, crashing out. Benefits, I don't even think they're benefits necessarily, but I'm saying that in a way of we've seen crash out become like a part of the culture for young people. Yeah, absolutely. There's a crash out culture. There's crash out music, right? Music that makes you want to just go out and do dumb stuff and go out and do, reactive stuff. And in the name of kind of like getting back or hurting at something or someone that triggered them. And so, again, it's all about that channeling, right? It's all about that direction. Yes, that anger that young people are feeling out there is honestly very valid with the world that we're living in and with the, honestly, adults who have left us this world we're living in. And that doesn't mean we go out and hurt someone else. It doesn't mean that we go out and, speak something into someone that's not empowering or uplifting through something difficult that we're talking about. That's not the way that we need to do it. However, we live in a society that loves like reality TV and loves the crash out, loves breeding crash outs and things of that nature. And so it's a tough cycle to break for sure. But I think that, discernment, establishing some of these lines between the two, as it is a very thin one, is I think a great first step, at least to acknowledging, how do we diminish some of what we're allowing our kids to go out and think is cool, to go out and think that they need to, kind of put themselves in, unsafe or dangerous situations where it's just not benefiting them. It's not attacking anything that they really need to work on in a healthy way.
So do you feel like you were appreciated for your passion growing up?
No. In where? Well, that's a quick no.
But that was
a quick no. I should have asked where.
Where? Well, I actually am interested in the home of whether you felt like we nurtured that, admired that, squelched it. What do you think?
It was a very confusing mix of both.
Okay.
There was a whole lot of, you're so smart, you're so great, keep talking, essentially.
Right.
And then there were times where it was just like, you're doing too much,
Mhm.
be quiet,
Mhm.
as I've heard numerous times in my household. You're being dramatic. That was something I've heard.
Remember we would, yeah.
I mean, no, you should remember you saying it.
I do.
Oh, okay, I was
Oh,
like,
no, I didn't mean that.
remember what about you saying it? You said it. So
yes, and that's what
be
I was
very
trying
clear.
to say. That
Okay,
I
well, it didn't come out
remember
that
me
way.
saying that.
Oh, well, somebody roll a clip. It did not come out that way.
Okay.
Anyway,
I'm sorry.
I've heard the whole, all of that, and it's not. It never felt like it was coming out in a way of, at least early
Right.
on.
Right.
It never felt like it was coming out in a way of like, well, here's not like why it's bad or not why it's necessarily not good for this environment or why it's that. It just was kind of like cut it out.
Right.
Cut it out,
Yeah.
and I told you so.
Right.
And that was for multiple adults in my life, right? And that's at home, right? But at school, it was even worse.
Yeah.
And the reality is, I've said it before, I don't really, care to continue to keep saying it. Being a Black kid in a predominantly white institution my entire life for academics, right? A Black face is considered the face of criminality, right? And the face of
wrongly considered that.
But that's what we think of when we think crime, when we think someone who needs to be put away for crime and whatever it is, right? That doesn't deserve a chance of rehabilitation, and really what that word means. It's not a mistake. It's like who they are, right? That's what we think about as Black men. It's what we think about when we think of crime and when we think of those things. And so I was constantly in an environment that was honestly reinforcing that way of thinking. And so anytime I tried to speak up against it, it wasn't just like be quiet. It was we'll suspend you or or go to the office. And that's the worst thing that any kid could have happen, especially when it comes to simply trying to exercise their voice and finding their voice, which is that was always my problem in school. I was never hitting on kids. I was never doing any of that. I was actually coming back at teachers to say, who are you to claim this authority over me? Kind of like show me what that means.
But that's scary for folk.
Very scary. Absolutely. I completely
scary.
understand. And not my problem, as I know that if it's a fear for you, right, that's something you have to be able to look in the mirror and establish for yourself, right? Those boundaries, those lines where it becomes passion and then anger, right? And what your responses are going to look like, as I have to do that when entering any room myself. And these were things that I was thinking about already very, very early. And I think that it felt lonely at times with all of these skills that are so great to learn, that are so generational to learn, right? It felt lonely when you're a kid, and you're thinking like this, knowing there's deeper stuff going on, and you're not really able to just kind of run around and frolic and do all that stuff like anyone else in the same way, at least. So it's really a deep one. It's really personal. I know that I understand why the line is so thin between the two.
What do you think that is?
What?
The line so thin between the two for other people who are receiving either passion or anger from someone or from you.
Yeah, I think the main thing, and again, guilty of it, right? We learn just as much as you guys, right? If not more, because we got to somehow come up and be on the show and, show up and be on demand for other people, right? But I think the biggest thing is the message or direction, which we'll talk a little bit later, in which you want to take people with the things that you're trying to put out there, right? So the reality is, like, there are people who just want to call you out because they're more comfortable calling you out than calling themselves in. And that is, while there's a deeper message there, that is a healthy message, right? Which is reversing that equation, right? Switching up that equation. It's not being channeled in an effective way when you're calling someone else on their stuff, especially in a vulnerable conversation, and then you're not modeling for them that you're able to be vulnerable, that you're willing to take that jump, or that you're able to actively listen and all of these things. I think that we just get caught up in, so many other things, listening up until the point we want to interrupt.
Yeah.
So we're missing out on what people are really trying to say. Again, not game planning enough in the moment, what we're trying to get out of these exchanges. These are real things that I think add up to our ability to start off passionate, and then as soon as something triggers us or derails us from our mission, immediately go into anger, and then we're not communicating effectively. So it's different.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say on air that I know my fears got in the way whenever I would say those things to you, because I'm dramatic, but that's what I've heard all my life. Right, so dramatic. So what did I do? I passed that down. As a parent, I didn't check in with myself as to the effect that had on me, which was not a positive one. And so I parented in that particular area in that way. And I know that it was also fear of you. I mean, Justin came here knowing Justin, I can make good decisions for myself. And who are you, by the way, that you're in charge of me? And so that's fear for a parent, especially a Black parent. I was fearful for him. And you all know, those who have been following Justin, you know, not only is he opinionated and wise, but he is very passionate when he speaks. He does get angry about things, but is able to channel that into passion. So I
think that's the thing that I'm talking about, as far as like maybe some of the negative lasting impact of like being called dramatic in my household and all that stuff as a child. The reality is that it felt like these were just things that we were just like saying and calling out as like a part of characteristics or like whatever. And then because we have a negative connotation, and because you've been modeled a negative connotation of it, it passed on a negative connotation to me. So even though I can talk in the right, environments, times, whatever, and I have to, right? There's plenty of times where I'm not talking. And I know that comes from, feeling like, oh, well, I don't want to burden, or I don't want to whatever, right? And these are natural things that come up. I'm sure you've thought about yourself too, after having received the messages.
Oh, I went silent completely.
Completely silent. And we that's more normal and common than people even, and I'm not saying I'm like, a superhero for this, but like, then people taking that, doing whatever introspection, and then saying, okay, I'm going to let that exist, but I'm going to continue to try to break that cycle. And when I need to, try to get that out. It's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to suck. I'm probably going to tell myself after, even if it's a release, that sucked. I don't know how being vulnerable is something that people like to do, all those things. And, at the end of the day, there's going to be lasting benefits for having taken that chance and taken that and done something with it, right? It felt like I was just being called dramatic to shut me up. And I was like, I'm over here just like,
you might be right.
It absolutely, no. Absolutely, no. I'm not maybe right. I am right. And not just because I'm someone who's on the receiving end, but that's how people get silenced, like you did yourself. They were telling you essentially, shut up, stop talking, you're annoying me, whatever it is.
Stop being yourself.
Or stop being yourself. And that's something that, as for anyone, is a terrible thing to be modeled. Right. It's an even worse thing to pass that on to the next generation. So I'm someone who's definitely a victim of something who's internalized a lot of those that thinking, right, that the dramatic is a bad thing and all this other stuff, right? And if anything, it's so deep that it's almost like a breath of fresh air when someone says to me, "You're not crazy. You're not crazy. This is your feelings are actually completely valid. Your reaction to this is actually completely valid. You're actually reacting better than most people would in this moment by giving me a word, as opposed to a fist, a finger, like whatever it is." And I think that, I just pride myself on doing the hard thing. It's a hard thing, communicating and talking and putting yourself out there. But, that's how we break the cycles. Giving people something to do with the comments that you're trying to put onto them, instead of just like, you smell, you this, you that. It's like, all right, if I smell, you got a shirt for me? Like, you got a shower for me real quick? So, like, what's going on? You're telling me I smell because it just makes you feel like you smell good. I don't know, whatever it is. These are things that we just have to
or
start.
they're intimidated or fearful, all the things that
Whatever
we
it
don't
is.
address.
Whatever it is.
It looks like we're hitting home with the audience, right? Just Andrea says she heard this her whole life. Yes. And Melissa, it's interesting. You said, this rings true for you, but if you got mad, you cried because the emotions collided. And let me just say something. I wasn't allowed to cry either. Oh my gosh. I'll give you something to cry for. Cry about was the battle cry in a lot of households where I was.
Deep that is?
Yes.
Because I can count on one hand the amount of times that I've seen you cry. And I just turned 24. So that goes to show how much you've been silenced and how much you've been reinforcing silence in other people without even knowing it. And of course, that's never been consciously your mission, your who you are, what you're about, what moves you, and that's how real. I have not on one hand.
Yeah, I know that's true.
And I think more of the times I don't remember. There's like 2 distinct times I can say I remember.
Right.
And I'm saying that as a way of, we are already so close. We're already so great off communication, off whatever. Imagine how much closer we would be if we allowed even more, in a way, emotions to, if not lead the way, just exist. And you've done a great job letting it exist in the 2 black sons you're raising, right? As we have a lot of charge, we have a lot of stuff to the real experiences
therapy, y'all.
of us. And stop taking away from the moment.
Okay, so
we like to joke when we don't want to feel something.
Okay, all right.
So not even trying to educate right now. It's like I'm fully seeing this moment for like, oh my God, imagine, after certain life things have happened, if we even gave you that place, like what that could do for our relationship and what it could do for models to other families that we are in close proximity to. Right? I think that, we think our parents are superheroes. We think our parents can take every punch. We think our parents can literally beat kryptonite in a way. And that's just like, even Superman has a weakness. Even Superman has a moment where he's got to break down. I don't know if any of y'all have seen any of the Batman, I'm trying to remember what cartoon series it was, but and what was happening. This is I feel so bad to all my nerds and geeks out there. I'm one of them, and I'm not looking like it. But Catwoman was consoling Batman after the loss of one of his sidekicks or friends or whatever, and she said, "It's okay to not be the Bat right now."
Ooh.
So I think for my parents out there, right, it's tough. This is a big ask, but like, think about, even with all the greatness and all the closeness that you may have, with your young people in your life and stuff, what it would be like if you modeled for them as a grown adult, just to simply say, I don't know, and I hate that I don't know,
or I'm hurting.
and I'm hurting, and I'm hurting myself more because I'm not letting it out. What if that was something that was modeled for our kids, right? It's not to get therapeutical, but I think it's something that really would bridge a lot of gaps and bring a lot more people to the table than running away from it.
Oh, I love this. Andrea says she's 53. She heard her mom cry 4 times. You said heard. That means you didn't see it. So that's the other thing, right? You may have heard behind closed doors, right? Your mom grew up hearing "don't speak unless you're spoken to." Yeah, I heard that too.
Right. It all becomes anger because you don't let the passion exist.
Ooh. It all becomes anger because you don't let the passion exist. I love that.
So I'd rather code down in some people's whatever as angry than silent, because I know it's I know the place and what both means to me as far as I just know what it means for me. I've done my work to know when I'm actually pissed off and when I'm really just passionate and caring, and then have a direction that I want to go in with it. And it's just internal work. We all got to get comfortable doing it with ourselves before we go ask someone else to do it. That's the thing.
So Andrea, you must have stepped out because Justin gave a long explanation of crashing out. So you got to watch the replay. She said Madison just called her and used the term crashing out.
Well,
so she was like, what does it mean? But he gave a long explanation already.
I'm talking a lot. Sorry about that, but this is a deep one, bro. This is a deep one. And I'm not for silence. I never have been, and I've been for I've been around more people, who like to silence,
Yeah.
people, and not
Guilty.
people, young adults. And I think that's
Yeah.
one of the foolish things that we could do as far as, how we're thinking about making the world better on a generational cycle perspective.
Yeah, yeah. So anger and passion, as we said, are two emotions that people tend to want to discourage and silence, but also they can't really tell the difference between them a lot of times. We want to give you 3 ways that anger and passion are different.
Cool. First way I came up with is direction. You've heard me say this before. You've heard this, in this entire episode, but the direction. I think that passionate people, are very much for calls to action. Are very much for, like I said, the difference between calling in and calling out, but more of the calling in type, where you're going to have to, in some way, shape, or form, maybe look in the mirror, maybe address something, deal with something that is uncomfortable, discouraging, whatever it is. But there's some sort of call to action, and or just the way that the message is delivered that makes you feel just like you can take it a little bit easier. Like it's just less of a hard landing. You know what I mean? It's still tough, but you just feel tougher than the tough landing.
Right.
So direction is a huge piece. You got to give something. You got to give people something to do with the emotions that are coming up and things of that nature. And I think that anger is one of the ways in which it can get destructive, when you don't have a direction in which you're channeling that particular emotion, right? That's why when people say they go here, especially for me when I first started, right, I'm angry at a lot of stuff. I need to punch it out, right? That's a healthy way of channeling that. However, we can't do that in every single dynamic engagement environment, all that stuff. So it's really just about, okay, if I can't channel it that way, how can I do it another? And I think direction is exactly what that means.
Yeah, I think direction is important too, particularly around passion. I think it kind of, and this is probably not the right thing to say, but I think it kind of mellows it out a little bit. And I guess I love passion though. It's interesting that comes up for me, that needing or wanting to mellow it out, right? It's as opposed to letting it burn and flame, and as you said, in the right direction.
Yeah, it's one of the things I love the most about myself. One of the things I love the most about other people that have taught me how to channel it, right? And I so agree with that. That's really, really true. The mellowing it out, right? And sometimes it's not even mellowing it out; it's just shut up. It's like it's not even giving it the process to die out, to feel a release. It's just. We're just going to skip over the whole process.
Yeah.
So that's really dangerous. It's really important to be careful with that. Next, I would say your motivations, right? The motivations are very, very important as far as identifying the differences. I think that passionate people, have, like I said, similar direction. They know somewhere they want to go. They know at the end of the day a goal in mind that they're trying to reach, and that ups and downs are a part of the process, right? They take it with a grain of salt, and that grain of salt could be, bigger grains of salt than in other situations, right? But I think your motivation is also really important for something, to come back to, like I said, when things are not going your way. And I think that anger is when, you're not able to return to whatever game plan notes you kind of had for yourself leading into these engagements where you're going to be highly triggered, right? That's when we start to just say stuff to say stuff. We start saying stuff to hurt other people, and we are completely just off our game at that point. And then everything that we were intending to say with an impact and with the intention of having impact goes out the window, because now we're trying to have that impact in another way, in a hurtful way, right? I want this to stick with you, but now because I'm hurt or I'm triggered or you didn't respond the way that I want, I need you to somehow, in a way, not like punish yourself, but kind of pay for not having it go the way that I wanted. These are the deeper things that we kind of say to ourselves when they don't go our way. So I think that your game plan and being able to go back to it, knowing that you just want to be heard, or knowing that this is someone you care about and you just want to put stuff on the table, whatever it is, when those triggers come up, it's really important to be able to come back to that in those moments, to have some discernment over when you're being passionate and when you're just really, really pissed off.
Yeah, I think that it can be a fine line. I think both want to be heard. That I think the motivation is to be heard, to express, and anger, if it is unexpressed or it held down and then expressed in sort of an explosive way, the motivation can be to hurt, but it could also be you're going to hear me, like, and because I am angry, and I think that we do not give enough language for people to be angry in a positive way. Those two words don't tend to come together in our society, right? Anger in a positive way, but passion, I think it's really just wanting people to understand and know our joy in feeling this way about something, whatever it is.
Yeah, and passion, I think, even if you just take it, if you took the motivation word a different way, right? I think passion, also increases likelihood of, that call to action actually being taken. So it will motivate you to, move, to do something about it, do something with it. Whereas that anger can really just honestly demotivate you. And, it's easier to get wrapped up in, some of the negative feelings as we're, taught to reinforce in each other all the time, that somehow the negative feelings are more of what we should make culture and normal, that we walk around with, instead of, the honestly candor that comes in passion. There's a lot of candor in passion. So,
ooh, I like that.
That's what I think.
That is a lot of candor. I like that word. Yeah.
I love that word. When I discovered it, I wanted to tattoo it on my face.
Okay.
Lastly, impact, right? You've heard, very similar to what I've said before, but, I think passionate people, even in saying the tough thing, are considering, how it's going to land for people. That I'm someone who, if you've worked with me professionally, I'm going to say the hard thing. I'm going to say it in the hard way, right? However, I think, the people who still work with me, correct me if I'm wrong, right? But, the reason that people still work with me is because I give, direction, motivation, like I give calls to action with it. I don't just let people sit in the shame or the guilt or whatever it is, as I know that that's a part of, unfortunately, the impact that's going to come with what we're talking about. However, I'm really big on like reassurance, all these different things that really do, at the end of the day, I think just kind of keep you as eased as possible, at ease as possible, and such a unease, like I said, heavy charged kind of engagement. So I think, passionate people are very mindful of that. They're very mindful of, I'm saying this to you because I need you to hear it. I'm saying this to you because maybe someone else hasn't. I'm saying this to you because I know, I see something in you. I see this in your future, right? This is some you have to work on to be able to step into that next phase, right? There's a lot more of that, I think, that you'll find with passionate people. Whereas, anger, it's really just, I'm going to put it out there. I don't care about your impact, or I know that the impact is hurtful, tough, whatever it is, and I'm just going to leave it at that. Right. We're not even going to explore the, dialectic of that comes in the process of healing or, addressing something. And I think that that's that's a very dangerous and unsafe place to leave people in any regard, but especially if you're a leader in the capacities of your life. That's definitely a dangerous place to function from that vantage point. And then, I don't think it's all that helpful as far as, giving them something to work up towards. So,
yeah, I think impact for me is tricky, right? Because if you want to have a conversation, right, then you do want to think about the impact that both passion or anger can have. But then at what point do you stop taking responsibility for the impact that it has on somebody else, because it's their stuff? It's not you.
True.
So,
True.
right?
There's an element of that.
Yeah. You gotta.
Absolutely.
So impact is tricky. You have to. I think you do have to think about it beforehand. I do, and anger tends to not necessarily do that unless they really want to get at you. But I also think that if you're not going to be silenced, then you cannot continue to take full responsibility for the impact that it has on someone if it continues to have that impact, meaning they haven't really worked on this.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. I love that for sure. I'm someone who's about, I'm going to own what I need to own and not a percentage more. Right. You know what I mean? So we talk about 50-50, 60-30, 75-25. We like to use those words and those numbers and percentages as, just association tips and stuff. Right. But I use that for practical application here and with a lot of these skills, for sure. Whatever's mine is mine, and, whatever's yours is yours. And if anything, if I call it out to you, it's because I've called myself in to do that work too. So it's more of a, like, even though you may have more to own in this moment, or I may have more to own in this moment, I can promise you, at least working with me, I'm someone who's going to work on it.
Yeah,
On my part.
I would say that's true.
So-
I'm less someone that's going to work on it unless Justin calls me out on it. I'm not gonna lie, but
I
do.
love the honesty of that state. That might have been the first therapeutical statement of this episode. I know I said a lot of stuff, but that is transparent and vulnerable, and I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it too. I do appreciate that therapy is important. I haven't had good experiences with it, y'all, but I have not given up. I'm not giving up.
I don't blame any one of you.
I'm
don't blame
not
any
giving
one of you.
up. But I will. That was a true statement. That if you call me out on it, then I proclaim to work on it, and I do my best to do that. All right, let's.
That's church right there. If I ever went to church, this is it.
All right, so
Talk to us.
let's talk about the cost of fearing or dismissing anger and passion, because we really do have to work on that, because most of us do either one, right? Okay, so you shut down conversation. We already talked about how people get quiet, right? And that people lose their voices. It is absolutely something that can keep people from having a good conversation, from reconciling, or even pursuing who they fully are, especially when that starts in childhood. I know for me, who always wanted to be a performer, after a while, having no voice, having passion and dramatics be shut down, I actually was afraid to perform for a while, for a really long while, because I wasn't able to fully establish growing up into who I truly am. I wanted someone who loved the drama and loved all of me, and I did not get that. And so little by little, I shut myself down, and my purpose and passion was shut down for a long time as well.
And I hate how universal that story is in whatever it is that they were passionate about. So a sport, right? That or something, right? And especially for acting, right? Are your emotions supposed to be like a good, like, isn't that when we think about like a good actor, good actress, whatever, a good director, producer, whatever it is, isn't I hear the word range a lot. I use it a lot.
Yes.
So isn't that something that's like a good thing? Like that's something you kind of want to be able to channel?
I couldn't access mine.
And I imagine you were clear. This is like something I love to do. Like,
I loved
this
it.
is a part of me.
Yeah.
So even though you're taking it this way, like, this is really what, you know what I mean? It's like,
I couldn't access that
that
piece.
sucks, bro.
That's why I really completely shut down.
That sucks, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out the grandparents, but what the hell? I don't know. I don't know, but
shut that down.
we can't keep doing that in anyone, but especially our young people. Why are we going to shut down opportunities for them that they haven't even seen as opportunities yet? That they haven't even tried yet.
That's right.
All because you have a negative connotation of whatever that is, because you didn't want to do your work. But you want to have kids.
Oh,
That's
I got
a whole
stories,
other conversation.
y'all. I got stories.
Whole other conversation that probably have to do off air. But Next
or another
one.
show. All right. Yes. The next one is you lose an opportunity to learn about the
Yeah,
person,
it's
their
huge.
emotions, communication style, right? If you're afraid or you're dismissing either one,
Yeah.
then you're really, that's what's happening, right? You are losing that opportunity. Who are you? I've learned so much about Justin through his passion, right? When I put the fear aside as his mom and as somebody who was taught to fear, right? The passionate and the anger. I've learned so much about him. And what I've learned also in taking him in is how to take in others, right? Because I'm a person, you've heard me say, I love difference. And so how do I then learn about others and how they communicate, and even cultures, how they communicate, if I'm afraid of passion or fear?
I love that. And I think I absolutely love that you said that, because I think that's true. You let me and my brother, be passionate people, and, get it wrong in our establishing of what that line looks like for us. And, that's just such a, I can only speak to just what it means as a model, in a household, in your household, to have that. It's had an everlasting effect on me, and it's allowed me to remember, especially when I'm, maybe being prejudiced, or I'm maybe just cutting someone too short, right?
Mhm.
And to be like, no, but someone gave you that chance, so give it to them. And I've said before, this has happened. These kinds of flame and flare ups have come up in my own personal friendships, and my ability to just like see it this way, right?
Yes.
To see it as an opportunity to learn, to see it as, what am I not seeing, right? Not just like, how was I wrong and all this other stuff. It just completely shifted the entire direction of the conversation.
Yeah.
So thank you, and thank you to all the other adults in my village, for being that model, because it's definitely helped shape how I feel outside the household, for sure.
Yeah, and the last one is lasting stereotypes can be created or reinforced. All fill in the blank. All women are loud or angry, or all men, all black people, all white people, all right? And it really doesn't create the opportunity to just get to know people. Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
It's not simple. It takes away from the moment, being in the moment, being open to future moments. And I love the reinforced part. I don't think we realize how much we're reinforcing and uplifting and upholding a lot of these practices that we all claim, majority to claim, to not want to be a part of anymore, and not want to pass on anymore. So it's really just being able to, be honest with yourself about where's that showing up and where's it not.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Y'all don't even know how much spur of the moment this was for us. There is no question. I learned a lot. I definitely learned a lot.
Did too. Yeah.
So before we give our closing thoughts, if you weren't here at the beginning, in case you missed this, our big news, we are featured in Black News. I always turn the wrong way. There we go. Working it out across generations, the transformative mission of Dr. Lynn Maureen Hurdle and Justin Hurdle Price. Our mission is to spark 1 million healthy conversations worldwide, one conversation at a time. Check it out. Right here is the link for the article. You can also see it on Facebook, which I am going to jump on. Hopefully Justin will join me too for a few minutes just to say a little bit about what you are going to find in the article, kind of backstory on us. And if you tuned in today, you learned a lot about us as well. So closing thoughts for me, I think this is the place where we really need work. I'm including myself in this. We have got to allow people to be passionate and allow for anger to be channeled in healthy ways. We've got to address the fact that we're afraid of both of these things when it comes out in folks. And we got to start that work now.
Yeah, I agree. I think now, and if not now, when? And we've been saying that for I don't even know how long. So let's do some more work, at least enough work to where we don't have to keep repeating the same generational phrases that have helped us feel good about continuing on adding to society, right? Let's change up some of those phrases that we passed on. And we want to continue to help do that. Tune in to E360TV.com trajectory channel, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Apple TV, and more subscriptions on the way. You can check us out on Facebook at Working It Out TV Show, YouTube as well at Working It Out Across Generations. And if you'd like to get in direct contact with us, send us any tips, anything you're seeing out in the world, questions, whatever it is, you want to send some love. Here's our email at Working It Out Across the Generations at E360TVLive.com. Guys, you know what we say? Every like, every share, every comment, every piece of engagement truly, truly means the world to us. We are about small as all. We are about building something that's going to amount to being bigger than us and then our time being here on this planet. So if you're here with us, you are here helping us do so. And yes, this was great. Stop touching stuff. That's just stop touching stuff. And I don't even know how to wrap up.
All right.
I'm one of your hosts, Justin.
And I am Dr. Lynn. Great show. Check out the article. Check us out. Facebook. We're going to jump on there for a little bit. Yes. All right.
All right. We'll see you guys next week. This is Working Out Across Generations. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.